Hi, this is Dr. Matt Garcia, USU Beef Cattle Extension Specialist. This is part 4 of our proper bull selection as a method to manage production risk series. Today we're going to be talking a little bit more about uh, bull development, bull testing, because this is where a lot of our bulls are kind of developed, and this is how we first encountered them after this process when we were considering implementing them into our system. Now, centralized performance testing, this is kind of a broad term. Um, Typically, when bulls are being developed, they are developed on some type of bull development program. It's a feeding program. It's a weight program. It's a number of different things that we utilize to really evaluate that bull's value in a production system. Now, these centralized bull tests or these bull development programs are typically a performance test that is looking at virgin bulls or young bulls from the same herd or cooperative herds or even in different herds for things like growth rate, feed conversion. These are typically yearling bulls. The reason we do this is it provides a uniform environment to really evaluate those bulls. You're going to reduce the management variability of resources from multiple different environments to get a kind of uniform growth potential evaluation. Typically at the end of these programs, we'll actually talk about this in our next section, is that there's a selection index typically assigned to these animals that helps rank them based off of multiple traits in the test of where they rank. The higher the index number, typically the more optimal that animal or higher performing that animal was in that test. Now, one thing we're going to talk about today is test ratios. Now, this is some information that we get uh, sometimes in bull sale catalogs or performance catalogs that let us know how these bulls performed relative to everyone else on the test. Now, this is just an example of a bull performance test. You can see typically the bulls are separated. There are some bull performance tests where they actually intermingle the animals and let them kind of grow separately. Now, in terms of uh, test ratios, anything above 100 is above average when compared to everyone on that test. Everything below 100 would mean that they're below average for that trait with everyone on the test. So, for example, this bull here is above average of the other bulls tested on the performance test of that development program for birth weight, yearling weight, weaning weight, but is below average for yearling weight, but still above average for scrotal circumference. Now, our bull over here is below average for birth weight, but above average for weaning weight, yearling weight, and scroll circumference. Now, the thing to remember about these is this is only comparing these bulls to other bulls that were on test. Now, there are some advantages to centralized performance testing. Now, we're testing multiple herds at the same time or developing bulls from multiple areas at the same time. This allows producers to really kind of compare cattle from a similar region. The big advantage is that this development test or bull test helps provide new genetics to producers that are buying bulls from the test for their outside herds. And the other advantage is it allows producers to really look at animal performance rather than some of our genetic predictions, such as young sire EPDs, which we know can be a little inaccurate because they haven't produced any progeny. So you actually get to look at some actual performance data from these animals. Now, the other thing with performance tests, currently most of these bull development tests will have, the growth aspect, the efficiency aspect, but a lot of these tests are also breeding soundness, or all these tests are breeding soundness examining these bulls, so they're guaranteed breeders. They're conducting carcass ultrasound tests, so you get kind of an indicator of that bull's genetic potential when it comes to producing carcass quality and composition. So there are some advantages to these tests in terms of incorporating these animals into your herd. Now, one of the big disadvantages of this is, this is an environment-specific test. So even if these bulls are from different regions, even if it's a similar region, they are going to be tested in a setting that might not be similar to what you're going to put those bulls into. So you might be buying bulls that perform very well on test, but they might not perform as well on your system. Now, the other problem we've had with some of these tests in the past was this is performance on non-range. Back in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, these were very feedlot-driven tests. These animals were essentially given finishing ration. The problem with putting those animals back on range was that they were no longer adapted to really maximizing their use of forage, so they would tend to melt down really quick. You might have to pull that bull out, sooner than you wanted to. Um, and that was one of the big things, was that this animal's performance on this performance test might not be indicative of how they were going to perform or how their calves were going to perform in your operation. Now, that has led to a lot of these forage-based tests where the animals receive more of a forage-based diet, going forward. Now, some of the questions that we really need to look at with these centralized performance tests, because they are a great source of genetics for us, is how was that bull developed? Was it a feedlot finishing ration where that bull is going to see grain and a high energy diet on test, but he's going to go out on range for you? More than likely, that's going to be a tough situation for you, because that bull will melt down. He's going to lose some body condition score. Forage testing, there are some advantages to it in the sense that they're kind of being developed on the resources that they're going to be expected to go out and make a living on for you. Now, the disadvantage that some of the producers don't like is that these bulls in forage tests, forage completely based tests, don't tend to come out as big as some of these feedlot tests, which isn't necessarily a bad idea either. Now, more than likely, most of these tests are forage based with kind of a high energy component on it to get these bulls to gain. So there's some combination tests there. You just really need to evaluate how that bull was evaluated. And the other thing you need to evaluate was how long was that bull on test, or how long was that bull developed. Most of these tests are 112 days. Most of these bulls are developed over an extended period of time. If your bull, was on one of these things that you're looking to buy and, he was dump feed for a short period of time, you probably need to evaluate that, because more than likely that bull is not going to do very well in your operation. So as of all these, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact me directly. And the next episode or series will be on expected progeny differences.